Awesome. We're very thankful you could join us today for Carrie's take and information on stress management. And if someone has stress, it's probably her. And can I love picking on you, Carrie. I see we have folks gathered from all around. I recognize some of your names. You've been with us before. But to orient us to the screen here, why don't we do something together and just take a moment to look at the top of your screen where you see the emoji, and if you could choose your thumbs up or happy face, show me that you found the emoji button and click on that. Carrie will ask you for lots of interaction while she's teaching, and she loves that. Thanks. Those of you who know how this works, we sure appreciate it. And then, of course, you notice to the left, you do have a chat area. Now, there's a way to make it so your side panel's showing or not showing. So if you have an arrow that's pointing to the right on the top left corner of your screen, not confusing at all, an arrow pointing right up on the left, click on that and it'll open up your chat for you. In there, you're going to find that we've put a couple of files for you to download and to participate in. So the first one I want to draw your attention to is what we've called the JOT form. Now, if you'd go ahead and click on that, what you'll notice, so it's found in the attendee chat, click on the JOT form, you'll notice it will open in a separate tab. And we're going to give you a moment of quiet here just to go through that quick form. It should take you about 30 seconds. Give us your opinion on where you stand right now. And then when you're done, just shoot us an emoji. I'll call for it also. And when we feel that we're all complete, we're going to proceed to the next step. So again, in the attendee chat, you click on the JOT form, opens in a new tab, and you go through it and hit submit at the bottom. Go right ahead. Awesome. I can see one person's breezed right through that. So as you're working through, go ahead and shoot me an emoji when you feel you're done and you've hit the submit button. Awesome, awesome. We'll wait for a couple more to indicate. You all are on the ball. Now, if you're done that and you've given me that emoji, how about in the chat you let me know where you're from? I'm going to put mine in for you. I'm broadcasting to you from Ninette area in Manitoba here. Lovely hills, and we have some from Selkirk and Ashern and Oak Bank, Winnipeg. Good to see that. So I'm just waiting on two more to complete the JOT form. So go ahead and shoot me your emoji when you're done. And beautiful Altona again, Ashern. That is phenomenal. Thank you everyone so much for doing that. We appreciate it. And Carrie will take a moment at the end to have you also complete the post-session JOT form. And that just helps us on the end of the funding and the management of it. That's really what makes it possible for us. The next thing I want to draw your attention to, it's just a little bit above where we've put where we're from. Carrie has uploaded the participant workbook for today. So that also will open in a separate method. In some of your devices, whether you have an Android or an Apple product, it will be different if that'll open in a tab or if it'll take you right to your download. And so you can just save that to your computer. It's not essential to print that and use that this morning. It's completely optional if you want to make your notes in there as we go, but it's certainly a resource to refer back to in the days ahead. So thank you for doing those with us, and make sure you grab that participant workbook while we're live today, because otherwise you will be missing out. Now we want to switch gears and jump right into the content because this is huge. Almost everyone in our province should have signed up for today because we all can relate to this topic. So it's my absolute pleasure and honor to be able to introduce to you Carrie Mealy-Holmes. Several of you may have been participants in her workshops before, and that's probably why you're back, because Carrie believes that curiosity is the foundation of learning, and learning is what helps us to become who we were meant to be. With over 10 years of field experience, Carrie understands that building trust and creating environments where people can engage freely and ask questions is a critical piece to bring awareness to all participants. With such patience and flexibility, she really knows how to adapt with the different personalities and how people interact and work together. That's what makes her one of our most in-demand trainers in the workplaces and online, like today. What you might find interesting when you listen to Carrie is she has so many storytelling moments and real life experiences to refer to because of that diverse background that she has. And then as an added bonus, her experience in broadcasting and production is what makes her awesome. So when she's not busy teaching wellness and yoga, here she is teaching us these very things. So it's my honor to open the door here now for Carrie to join us. And Carrie, take it away for us, please.
Thanks, Rochelle. My head is going to explode. Is anybody getting any audio feedback? Does it sound okay to you guys? All right, so I had to do, speaking of stress management, we were having some problems with the technology today. So I'm inside and I'm personally getting this double feedback. So if I sound all of a sudden like I'm speaking really slowly, that could be why. I'm going to also pop off camera. I just wanted to let you know how great my hair looks today. And but what happens here is my bandwidth is low and I have my camera on. So apologies. I do like to see, when I'm on a webinar, I like to see speaking, especially eyebrows, things like that. So thank you for your patience today. Stress management, oh my gosh. Thank you for being here. And Rochelle, you're right. I think this is a topic that all of us could agree that is needed so much. And I would like to bring in a little bit of breathing and meditation later on. Some folks have a different feelings around the word meditation. I would like to think of it as just taking a moment to pause and to kind of block out all the extra weirdness going on in the world. So welcome, everybody. Now, thank you again for doing the free training self-assessment jot form. Really important part of what we do, and especially when we're doing these workshops. It gives us an idea of what people have learned and gives us that ability to provide more workshops based on how much you're learning and all of that good stuff, so we can keep providing these amazing workshops to you guys. Now, Workplace Education Manitoba, we're helping people to develop essential skills that are needed for work, learning, and life.
Hey folks, it looks like a few of us have lost audio with Carrie, and I think it's that internet connection, so we're going to work on that right now. And Carrie's going to keep testing her microphone for us and see if we get that. So let's just be patient and give our ear to Carrie at this moment. Well, isn't this a great experience? Here we are talking about stress management, and imagine the stress Carrie has at this moment. Carrie, why don't we try the video feed and then disconnecting the video feed again and see what happens there. We'll get to ask your bandwidth for lots, I see. And then let's disconnect that and see if your audio will come through. Okay, we got you, we can see you, but we have no voice. So we can see you, and thumbs down, we cannot hear you. So now maybe click off your camera and let's try with that audio only.
How about now? Can you guys hear me? Are we good? Yay! Okay, now are you
Carrie?
okay? Can you guys see the stress management PowerPoint slide? It just really plain.
Yes, you're perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, yay! Okay, so stress management. What I love about this topic is that it really truly does apply to every single aspect of what we do in our lives. Now, if we could just get this guy to advance. There it is. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for your patience. Thanks for sticking around. Our vision is that we have that access to essential skills, knowledge, and training required to determine and pursue goals related to learning, the workplace, and life. Hello, this is a perfect real life example, right? And like I was saying, we give thanks to Employment and Social Development Canada, Manitoba Education and Training, and this project was jointly funded through Human Resources, Skills Development Canada, and Entrepreneurship Training and Trade. Now, without this joint funding, we would not be able to provide you these courses free of charge. And so we thank you for all the forms that you fill out, for the JOT form. That really helps us to be able to continue to provide this type of training. Now, many of you are becoming so familiar. Has anybody taken this and used it as a lower back tattoo yet? I'm just curious, because we see this slide a lot, but it's important because it's what we do, right? It's those essential skills. So reading text, document use, numeracy, writing, and digital technology. These are our essential skills. Now, we look at the competency level there. The green one, oral communication, working with others, thinking skills, and continuous learning. I would like to say that with stress management, we're using a lot of these, especially oral communication, working with others, and those thinking skills. Those are, for me, those top three that we use to help move us forward in our leadership development and our professional development. So, like we said, organizing and planning through thinking skill. Oh, Rochelle, I think you're on. Rochelle, I think your mic is still be on.
The office.
Oh, just a sec, guys.
I just mentioned that looking at doing
okay.
A career assessment.
1 second.
To I just did you have to decide what to do, or do you have any context to know what's
Let me just see next? If I can get her to chill. There we go.
Okay. Nope.
Oh, maybe not. You guys are having a fun time with us today, aren't you? Okay, there we go. Look at that power I had. I could just turn her right off. Now, we were saying about the essential skills, that organizing and planning, thinking skills, listening, asking questions, all under oral communication, and decision making and problem solving and speaking, right? All of these are all part of stress management and being able to manage ourselves as well. So what are we learning today? We're going to look at how to define stress. And now there are some general ways that we define stress, but I think it's really important as personal development for us to look at what are our own stress triggers. What's stressful for me might not be stressful for you. For example, what happened today with our stuff, to be honest, it's annoying. It doesn't super stress me out because I figure we'll always find a way around it. And again, the part that could be stressful is if you guys, are angry at us or whatever, right? So that could be. But for each one of us, the truth is our stress will be and look differently. And that's also an important thing to remember if we're the type of person who's like, whatever, and there's no stress, versus the person who's stressing beside us, right? So having that patience and flexibility and understanding. So being able to recognize signs of symptoms of stress within ourselves, but especially in our teams as leaders, that we're able to recognize what's going on with our team when things seem to be kind of going off the rails, right? To recognize those causes of stress in our workplace, and then of course, learning techniques for reducing stress. So that being said, my hopes and dreams today for our time together is, of course, creating this learning environment where we can really learn from one another. Now, what is stress? What is the impact of too much stress? Why do I need to learn to manage my own stress, and how can I manage my stress? Now, for most of us, we would agree that stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. And stress management involves controlling and reducing the tension that occurs in stressful situations by making emotional and physical changes. Now, one thing a colleague of mine noticed when I'm upset, and I can see myself doing it right now, or you feel a little bit stressed or panicked, I'm looking at my hands, I create a fist, just like this picture says. So as we create more of that awareness in ourselves, I would invite you to look for some of those physical things, those outward things that you do that show and demonstrate that you feel stress or tension. I didn't know this about myself. Someone else pointed it out and said, why are you creating a fist right now? Maybe they felt threatened, I don't know. But it was an interesting thing for me to notice that. So especially as a person who stands in front of people, that stress might not be anger, it could be excitement stress, but I don't want people to think that I'm gonna, give them a right jab or something. So I try to open my hands, I invite you to try this right now. Take both of your hands and create a fist. Okay? Make a fist in either hand and tighten it really tight. Take a breath in and then exhale and open your hands. And this idea of opening our hands is pretty symbolic, right? You think about when you're meeting someone, maybe not so much recently, more of this elbow thing. I don't know if you guys have done that, but pre-COVID, we would shake hands, right? It's an openness. It's body language, and so being aware of the body language that we give when we're under stress, and as part of our emotional intelligence, is to be aware of that. Now, learning the skills that will enable you to have the ability to manage yourself in stressful situations is really important for success at work. How many of you, by show of thumbs up, have worked for someone currently or in the past, doesn't matter to me, who is a really stressy person? They explode easily. They may even have like a really red face half the time. I've worked for someone like this in the past, and you could tell they wore their heart on their sleeve, this type of person, very passionate. You could definitely tell when they were stressed. And because they were my leader, it caused me to kind of have doubts about their capacity to handle stressful situations. And as a not necessarily as a judgment, but more of an observation, to be mindful of of what we can control, which is ourselves, to be mindful of our body language in stressful situations, especially as leaders. What are we portraying? Can they feel confident in our ability to handle stressful situations based on simply how we look? It's a sad thing, it's a sad truth, but that is what we do, right? We base our assumptions and opinions on what we see on the outside. And for some of you, I've talked about this idea of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Now, if our thoughts are not in line with our behavior, right? My idea is to lead my team to success confidently, but I'm flying off the handle all the time. There's some incongruence there, right? There's a misalignment between what's happening in my mind, what I think I'm doing, and what I'm actually doing. So you can see how important it is for us to have this type of success at work. Not that long ago, I'm going to go back so we don't get confused on that. Not that long ago, I had the opportunity of sharing a leadership development course in an organization. And this organization deals with a lot of stressful situations. And they had one person in particular, I was told beforehand by a member of the team that the office bully, isn't that lovely, would be in my group. Now, I got excited because I thought, well, this is an opportunity to have some meaningful conversations and to see if we can steer the ship around a little bit. Not from anything that I do, but just from the information that's presented. And in our session on communication, which was really heavy on treating people how they want to be treated, it was really interesting that 2 weeks later, the quote unquote office bully, and I recognized him, he was this person, right, with the red face, tomato about to explode on top of his neck. And it was fascinating that just 2 weeks later, I had some of the members of the group come up and tell me how much their communication had changed and shifted with this person because they became more aware, right, of their behaviors and the message that they were portraying. So again, if nothing else, today my hopes and dreams would be awareness of our behaviors. So what are the benefits of understanding stress management? I just want to brainwash you into understanding why you're here. So we need to know why we do or think things, to understand why other people may do or think things, and that way we can relate to others better, right? Have better working with others skills, especially if we understand when they are under stress. We can recognize it. This also may increase patience and respect among and across teams. And I'm sure that you have seen this. When we're able to manage our own stress and recognize stress in others, we're able to develop that patience. The word empathy and compassion come to mind as well. And that understanding of why people are behaving the way they do. Now, in our we have a short course on personal accountability, and in it we talk about this, right? Why would someone who is normally a rational and reasonable person is now violating accountability? Why and what would possess them to do this? And instead of being offended and shaming them or whatever it is that we do in workplaces or ignoring them, we find out what's happening, because the truth is we're all people. I think back to, when school got let out. I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, all in different schools, they're different ages, right? And how working from home, my workload doubled. And not only that, now I have people that are wanting to be fed 500 times a day, and they're more than capable of getting their own food. So of course I would just say, go figure it out. But then I had to do math, which isn't a strong point for me. And it became really stressful. And because of that, if we're not able to manage that stress both inside and outside of work, they're going to spill into each other. Have you guys ever noticed that? Where we're taking work home or we're bringing home to work? And a lot of people will say, no, I know how to successfully manage and balance that. And I would say, do you really though? Because under stressful circumstances, we might think we're doing a great job, but sometimes, right, this emotional stress, it happens in situations that we consider difficult or challenging, which I definitely had. And I knew that. Because I knew that I had it, I was pretty sure that most people had it too. And like I mentioned before, we feel stressed in different situations and for different reasons. I wanted to bring up both emotional stress and physical stress. And have any of you ever noticed how sometimes these two kind of connect and they end up intertwining sometimes? So we talk about physical stress as a physical reaction of the body to various triggers. So for example, the pain experienced after surgery is an example of physical stress. Now, physical stress often leads to emotional stress, and emotional stress often occurs in the form of physical stress, stomach cramps. Now, for me, and this is what I know, so apologies for being so personal with you, that physical stress for me is belly, right? Belly gets sad, gets upset, or I get pain or headaches. Does anybody else find this where you get a physical stress related to emotional stress? Part of my fitness training, thanks Gail, yeah, thanks everybody. A lot of times people don't understand why they have lower back pain, right? There's a whole world of people roaming around with a lot of back pain. And I'm not suggesting that there isn't physical issues going on, but one phrase that I love is our issues are in our tissues. And it's true, we get that physical stress as a part of our emotional stress, and then we just pack it on. It's like throwing a backpack on of rocks, right? And this emotional stress we're feeling, we end up carrying it around physically, and it's very damaging. We need to know nervous stomach, 100%. Yep. I used to get that really bad when I would teach. I had this one place I worked at that had pre-choreographed yoga and Tai Chi classes. I would get so nervous beforehand that I was going to make a mistake or, disappoint people or not live up to expectations, right? Each one of us has these different things that we're dealing with in our lives. But yeah, definitely nervous stomach is one that comes up for me too, Terry. I appreciate that. Thank you for your honesty. The truth is, stress is normal. I even think sometimes a certain amount of stress could possibly be healthy. Now, don't quote me on this, guys. I haven't actually done any real Facebook studies. Just kidding. Or actual studies. But we all feel stress at some point related to our work, our family, even decisions, our future, and more. Earlier today, if you were joined in with our decision making, I talked about how 3 a.m. seems to be a really common time to think about all these things and where we end up, staying up and our eyes are wide open because we're stressed. And sometimes that stress is real and sometimes it's made up. And for me, because I tell stories about lots of different situations, I'm curious. Sometimes that gets me into trouble in the 3 a.m. I start thinking about, well, what if we built a pond and then, animals got hurt in it, or, you know what I mean? Things that possibly could not happen or possibly could happen. And if you think in the workplace, we have all sorts of stress, deadlines, grumpy customers, a pandemic, right? There's so many different things. We know that stress is both physical and mental, and we can see some of those big ones: illness, the death of a loved one, a change in responsibilities or expectations, job changes, all of these things that could really cause these huge amounts of stress. Inside your workbook, and this is a take home for you guys, I don't know if we'll have time to get to it during our time together today. Within that workbook is a stress self-assessment, and I really invite you to take the time to go through those questions. And each answer gives you a certain number to add up. And, excuse me, it will tell you whereabout you are with your stress and the opportunity that you have then to take that information and to use it in order to help manage the stress. I'm not going to say that your stress is going to go away from attending this 1-hour workshop, but hopefully we'll have some tools and resources on how to do it. And again, this is my third time saying it. The number one is awareness and that self-realization of what's going on in my body, what's happening in my mind. So we're saying here both physical and mental. And some of these we don't have control over. And personally, what I'm seeing just with colleagues and friends, the amount of people that feel unhinged right now in their lives, primarily due to this pandemic, right? And I apologies if you thought you were going to get away from this topic during this time together, but it is a huge cause of stress for so many people right now. I listened to a lady on the radio this morning who is a student from Japan at the U of M. Both of her parents back home have lost their jobs, and so their family is really struggling. So what is she doing? She's gotten a job so that she can send money home and hopefully try to stay in Canada and finish her studies. So many different things, places experiences that we're having right now that we have zero control over. Zero. So just like illness and death. I know in our home, my husband became very ill a few years ago. It changed everything, and it was extremely stressful, and still can be, right? When we think about what people are going through. And I look at, death, that impacts all of us at some point, and how stressful those times can be. Now, those are the biggies. What about the small ones? We have even smaller daily events also cause stress. The other day, my cousin had an art show, you guys. It was so amazing. And the last day is when I got to go to it. That's just the way my schedule worked. And I get outside, and there's my car with a flat tire. We have this old truck. It's huge. It's an extended box, 4-door Ford F-350. Okay, I love to drive it, but I was thinking, I'm going to Fleet Galleries on Albert Street downtown in the Exchange. This ought to be interesting for parking. So I made my way down there and thankfully found good parking, but you can see where all of those little smaller things, right, could have added up to a lot of stress. So now, I wrote about this in my Hello Cousin blog, by the way, so if you're curious. I thought, well, I'm in town, I better go get groceries. So I headed from the Exchange over to Regent to go to the superstore. And as I finally parked the truck for a second time in the city, I heard honking and yelling. And it wasn't thankfully directed at me, but there were two vehicles. What I could conclude was that the white car had cut off the burgundy car, and the burgundy car was using a lot of swearing at the white car. And again, usually I'm really good at telling myself a story, like maybe the burgundy car is tired of putting everybody's needs ahead of theirs, or the white car was getting meds for a sick child, or whatever, right? I didn't do that at the time, I did it later, but at the time I just stopped and I went, I feel really sad right now. And even though it wasn't directed at me, I became a a part of it because I was there, right? Because of the noise of it. So all of these little things, now I've got nervous stomach again, right? A little bit jittery, whatever, because of something that didn't even happen to me, but because of accumulation of stress, right? Kind of like these reports here. One little thing kept building on top of another. I had, on my way over to Region, I went over the bridge. Where just a few weeks ago, a little boy, he had drowned. And thankfully, I'm part of an Indigenous women's hand drumming group in Selkirk. And we got to go drum for his funeral. But, so then that thought was in there. So all of these little thoughts that on their own, are pretty manageable. But when we start building them, right, it maybe isn't apparent until, I saw someone flip someone else off and I went, wow, why do I feel so sad? And you start looking back at, wow, there were a lot of little stresses. And it adds up, those small ones add up to a big impact. Now, in response to these daily stresses, our body automatically increases blood pressure, heart rate, respiration, metabolism, and blood flow to the muscles. And like you guys have noted, we feel this, right? We can feel it physically, or people will have heart palpitations, and go on a Holter monitor for 24 or 48 hours, and then the doc says, well, I don't see anything wrong here. There's nothing wrong with your heart. Or we go for EKGs or things like this, when really it's stress is what's causing it, right? All of these different physical things. So how do we assess stress then? Well, first off, I want to ask that question to you. Enough with me yabbering on. How do you assess stress in other people? How can you tell if someone is stressed? Mm-hmm. Definitely short temper, especially in those that we usually see, aren't quick to respond that way. Posture, tone of voice, receptiveness to discussion, big time. Agitated behavior, that's what I was thinking. Quick body language, someone who's, grabbing their papers or things like that, right? Things that are maybe even out of their normal. Or the other sad truth is people become to just live in that land of stress all the time. And they don't even realize anymore that they're portraying that stressy behavior. Sharp tones, word choices, not even discussing, maybe just throwing out one or two word answers, right? So there are a lot of different ways that we can tell stress in others. And again, for the fourth time, I hope we can recognize it in ourselves. You guys brought this up too, attitude, right? Are they responding, like Dana, like you said, are they receptive to a discussion? A person with a negative attitude will often report more stress than would someone with a positive attitude. I've met people in my life, and I hope that you have too, who have a lot of stress, okay? But because of their attitude, you maybe wouldn't know it. I have a friend like this who has a lot of children, lost a child in a car accident, whose husband works a lot, and she has a very busy life. The kids are in all sorts of sports and things like that. She is one of the most positive people I know, right? She looks for the good. And I'm sure she's under a lot of stress. I'm sure she's awake at 3 a.m. But it's how she's handling it, right? That attitude. Now, diet is another thing we look at with people that are stressed. And again, this is observation, friends, not judgment. I had this example yesterday. I was coming out of the washroom. My daughter and I were just finished changing from swimming. We were at West Hawk Lake, which was phenomenal, by the way. And there was a lady washing her hands, but we had just used the stall to change in. And so I was about to walk out, and I just looked at her and I said, I want you to know that all I did was change in there, right? Like, I didn't want her to think that I was that person who uses the bathroom and then never washes hands. And she just looked at me with the kindest face and said, I wouldn't judge you either way. And I felt it. I knew that she really meant it. So this diet is a hot topic. This is something that can really light people up in a bad way. So it's not my intention, but I do want to say that these 3 points here, right? A poor diet puts the body in a state of physical stress and weakens the immune system, which can lead to further stress, right? With illness. A person is more likely to get infections with a poor diet. And it could even mean not eating enough or not eating on a regular schedule. I take the word normal out. I don't know that we have a normal schedule, but yeah, so being mindful of what we're taking into the body. So this form of physical stress also decreases the ability to deal with emotional stress because we're not getting the right nutrition. I remember my son, this was a miracle. This was maybe grade 2 for him. And, I'm trying to be the quote unquote good mom and give him nutritious food and then, pop in a cookie or something. And he came to me and he said, Mom, I can't have that at school. I went, what? Like, what do you mean? I was thinking like other kids wanted them. They thought we were cool people because we gave you these yummy homemade cookies. He said, no, my brain doesn't work well when I have that. 7. Boy, observation, not judgment. Isn't that fascinating? He knew right away what causes his body not to work and function well. I was so proud of him for that. And, instead he's 15 and his idea of a snack is now, like 4 peanut butter and jam sandwiches and like 2 long English cucumbers. So he's eating us out of house and home now. But yeah. And what about physical activity? So not getting enough physical activity can put the body in a stress state. It's finding what physical activity is best for you. Now, as someone who was born with club feet, I've had 7 billion surgeries. My hip bone's connected to my ankle. I've got all this stuff going on. And people are like, well, running is such a good form. Well, not if you have arthritis and your bones are thinning and you could get stress fractures. I love to swim. I try to swim almost every day that I can. And so it's finding that activity that's best for you. When I do physical activity, or even if it's just some stretching, it's amazing that mind-body connection that happens. How many of you have found that? Have you noticed that physical activity boosts your brain power? Are you able to find that connection? And if so, what are you doing? What type of activity do you do to create that mind-body connection? Right, there's so many different things. Yeah, I love walking. Isn't that amazing? An early morning walk or bike ride. Planking, yes. Walking, cycling. It doesn't have to be hardcore, right? Walk the dog. So many people have noted, and I'm sure there's a real study out there, how getting a dog helped them with their physical activity so much. Right now we're quote unquote forced out to take our dog for a walk. Yeah, a good morning stretch. I agree. Now, I've been a yoga leader leader of classes, an instructor, if you want to call it, for many, many years. So why didn't I have my own home practice? I wasn't doing that. I have all the training, the knowledge, the equipment, and yet I didn't have a home practice until, guess what? A pandemic. I found that in order to manage the stress that I was feeling from my outside world, I had to take care of that inside world. And so something as simple as a good morning stretch has totally changed my life. Thank you, everybody. I love when we can share with one another what we're finding to be helpful. Appreciate it. There it is. So the next part is support systems. And this is a huge part of finding that strength to overcome the stress and to deal with the stress. Now, if we feel that we don't have that support, it makes stressful situations even more difficult to deal with. Isn't it fascinating? I don't know if you guys noticed this. I don't watch TV, but I do listen to radio. How a lot of the ads were, we're here for you, right? Like all of these things. It wasn't about, here, try our new products. It was, we're here for you during this pandemic, because people want to feel that they have someone in their life that they can rely on. Who do you have to lean on? I know for me, I have amazing coworkers. And, Rochelle has been a lifesaver during this time, and especially with these online things to have that type of support. I have another lady that I work with who, I just love her. I really do. And then, of course, I have people outside of work, and my cousin Laura, for example, who's planning her wedding in a pandemic. She'll be married in a couple of weeks. Talk about adapting and flexibility. She's another person, although she's a lot younger than I am, I see her as a lot older because she has that ability to calm me down, I guess. Thanks, Rochelle. Yeah, family, friends, and it's important for us if we don't feel that we have someone. I would say, is there someone who feels that you are their person to lean on? Right? Who's leaning on you? That's another question. And if we feel we don't have that, look around and notice the people that you have in your life. And that could be even a journaling opportunity for you. Thank you. Yeah. Deep thoughts here today, friends. Okay, here's my favorite. Getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Are you guys doing this? Is anybody sleeping 7 to 8 to 9 hours? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Gail, oh my goodness. We're going to have to get all your tips. Have you always been that way? Rochelle, what? Uninterrupted, guys? Come on. Yeah, me too. More like 6 to 7. And it's not that I don't go to bed at 9. It's just that I don't stay awake or don't stay asleep, as you can tell. Some nights are better than others. I would love for this to be consistent. Now, if we are not getting this, know that it's an important part of being able to cope with stress. And those of you that are, big high fives, right? So some of these traits, right? We said signs and symptoms, stress causing issues. Now, hopefully these don't resonate, but if they do, I'm with you. Feeling out of control, we mentioned that. Feeling directionless. Wow, that's a deep one. That would be a good campfire discussion. Guilt over procrastination or failing to keep commitments. More commitments than time. Everybody's favorite word. I almost throw up in my mouth when I use this word, uncertainty, just because it's been so used, right? But it's true, it causes that stress. High expectations of self. I have a few friends like this. I suppose I am in some ways as well, but those high expectations of self can really set us up for disaster sometime. And then change, especially those that we didn't initiate or institute. Those can be really challenging. What affects your coping with stress skills? For better or for worse? That's my question to you. So if you don't mind popping it into the chat, what affects your coping with stress skills? Right? This inability maybe to predict issues, problems, and opportunities. With dip though, Rochelle, potato chips with dip. Yeah, sometimes it is, right? Like it's like food. That would became one for me when the kids were really little. I was under stress. I'm like, Carrie, you're reaching for chocolate chips. Like they're not even that good of chocolate. Like what's going on here? And this is the conversation I have with myself. Yeah, it depends on the person. Yeah. A hug. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That can be really unsettling for people. Weather. Oh my goodness, truth. Yeah. And again, friends, this is about understanding ourselves, other people's instability. Yep, I hear that one big time. Our own capacity. Yeah. Mhm. Thank you. So many truths, hey? I'm so glad each one of you is here to share this with us. And a big part of this, like we were saying, is change and how we feel through times of change. Lots of different feelings. Some of us feel excited, some of us are stressed, right? Theoretically, people become better at managing stress and change with experience. Now, I know some of you, I've met a few of you, and I would say that you would probably agree with this, that as we are able to manage stress and change, it's because of experience, whether those experiences were perceived good or perceived bad. We will still continue to have that type of stress and change come into our lives. And the better we deal with it, the better off we will be. And it doesn't mean to say that we're always going to make the best choices, but perhaps with our experience, we will learn how to do that, or at least how to manage ourselves during those stressful times. Some people need to talk it out, and other people suffer in silence. Mm-hmm. That is true, Dana. I agree. Even good changes can cause stress. I absolutely agree with that. How about flying to Paris for a weekend, right? That's a good thing, but it could cause stress. Or moving, or anything that we want to do. It's a good change. It still could cause stress. I agree. It's a really good point to bring out. People find relief in complaining. Do we know people like this? Possibly. Some talk and talk, but maybe aren't necessarily supportive of the change, but they just continue to yammer on about it. And other people find ways to sabotage changes and undermine efforts to move forward. This one hurts my heart, right? When we see that with people. We could see folks with different levels of stress and change occurring in other areas of their lives. Like we said at the beginning, sometimes our home is coming to work and sometimes our work is coming home. And it's important that we have, as leaders especially, to have that patience and understanding and empathy towards these types of situations. We may feel, as talking about that support, we may feel different amounts and types of support from partners, friends, supervisors, and even our coworkers. And that's, for me, that's the first people I think of. Sorry, husband, wherever you are. I think of my coworkers because the majority of the stress that I feel comes from outside of my home, thankfully. I wanted to plow through here top 10 causes of stress in the workplace, and for you to keep in mind what you see at work. And if you're not seeing it, do other people see it? So number 10, the workload. We have too much with too little. Random interruptions. Pervasive uncertainty. So never mind the pandemic, let's put that aside. What other types of uncertainty could be happening in the workplace that could be causing folks stress? Mistrust and unfairness. Ugh, this one's gross. Mistrust can blow apart an entire operation when we don't have that, especially perceived or real unfairness. Unclear policies and no sense of direction. When people don't feel a sense of direction, they feel unhinged, right? Like I mentioned earlier. Or if we don't have clear policies, or if we have clear policies but are ignoring them, that can cause trouble too. Career and job ambiguity. Remember, some of you I told back in a former life, boss comes in, just so you know, your jobs are safe. We never thought they weren't. 6 months later, jobs move to Toronto, people stay in Winnipeg. So that's challenging. No feedback, whether it's good or bad. This is a whole other discussion, right? On giving feedback, how important it is to give both good and corrective feedback. Both are needed. People don't feel appreciated. Huge cause of stress in the workplace. A simple thank you. You're amazing. Thanks for showing up, right? A lack of communication, huge, which leads to mistrust, right? Or this idea of not having feedback, and a lack of control. All of these can cause huge troubles in the workplace. Now, workplace stress is at its greatest when employees have no say regarding things that affect them. Have any of you ever experienced this? where you felt like totally out of control, you didn't have a say. Oh, yes, Gail, you totally get it. One group I was working with was really upset because the boss was giving them a uniform that they didn't agree with. They didn't like it. It didn't, wasn't flattering, this sort of thing. Yes, I agree, especially in retail. Yeah, I've seen that personally. Hmm. Simple things, giving people a choice. Oh, again, friends, if I haven't told you about this, um, and I don't know if you have time, Rochelle, to find this, surprising. I'm trying to type it in here. It's hard to talk and type at the same time. The surprising truth about what motivates us. You have a second. Can you go grab that off of YouTube? It's a whiteboard marker guy, and if not, no big deal. But guys, look this up. It's a 10-minute TED talk based off of a book called Drive by Daniel Pink. Anyway, this is a huge thing of it. I'll move on. Yeah, giving people choices. That's what they want, right? Effective managers understand that stress control is a leadership responsibility and give it just as much attention as any other management function. Because the truth is, we're dealing with people. If our people are under stress, we haven't helped them to manage it, or we have all sorts of issues, right? Then what do we see? We see a lack of accountability. We see a lack of productivity or efficiencies. And then what rolls in? Oh, I don't know, conflict, mistrust, right? All sorts of bad. Thanks, Rochelle. She just popped that in to the chat. I appreciate it. That was just kind of a side thought. So apologies, just rolling with it here. I love this quote. Your mindset creates your destiny. Isn't that so true? Now, the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. And I think for some of us, that is the hardest thing to do, is to shut down the chatty mind and turn on the observing mind. And again, I would love another 5 hours to just talk about that. Individual stress management, find positives, don't dwell on negatives, take a break and have some sort of fun. What's fun for you? Again, physical activity, even 20 minutes of walking outside. Lots of studies done on forest bathing, right? Just being in the forest and how that can instantly reduce our stress, or even looking at a picture of a forest for, 5 minutes or something can help with that. Nutrition, like we mentioned earlier, having a social support, being good to ourselves and to others, and relaxation. Now, I had hoped to have, unfortunately, due to our many, many issues, I had hoped to do a guided breathing activity with you. But what I'll do instead is, while you're completing your post-training chart form, which will pop here into the chat, thanks, Rochelle, I'm going to go find you a guided meditation that I did on a YouTube channel that I have. Okay, so please take a moment now to go ahead and complete that jot form, and we'll come back and finish up.
If you feel you've
Okay.
completed your jot form and you've been able to hit the submit button, please go ahead and shoot us a thumbs up emoji and let us know you're ready for Carrie to finish up here. Highlight for you that she's posted a YouTube video for us that she's teaching about guided meditation. So thank you for that, Carrie. Thank you, folks, for being able to complete the jot form. You'll have a few seconds to do that when we're done also, and we'll hand it back to Carrie now.
Okay, thanks, Rochelle. Yeah, it's super cheesy, but I hope you'll enjoy it. I just wanted to finish up with this final thought to really listen to yourself, right? If nothing else, like I've said about, I think it's 5 or 6 times now, to listen to your body when it tells you to slow down or take a break. I know in my life, if I don't listen, it has a way of forcing me into doing that and making sure that we're really taking care of ourselves. Thank you again for joining, each one of you, and thank you for completing the form. If you, like you said, if you haven't finished it, please take the time to do that. We have our website here, our Interlake website, which are the office that Rochelle and I work primarily out of, also our email address, and a reminder that we have bus centers located throughout the province as a way to do upgrading. So if you have anybody on your team or you know of people that are looking to increase their skills, increasing their essential skills, please send them our way. And again, thank you so much for joining today, everybody. And I hope that you're able to go forth and feel confident in your abilities to manage the stress and manage yourself. Take care. Have a wonderful day.